Whether you're managing younger talent or you are the talent, it starts with a very simple premise. Let me finish my thought. I'm not sure this has to be covered up. We can handle the honest truth here. There's beauty in simplicity. Leaders aren't good this way. And if you're managing folks like this, also doesn't go well. The rest is not as hard as you think. How do you manage a new generation coming into your facilities and setting them up for success to keep your business growing? We're going to dive into this. Stick around. Just a couple pregame thoughts. So on the managing younger talent, when you just hear that phrase, like what comes to your mind, thinking about how you grew up, your parents, like the challenges of today, like where's the head go?
Well, it was hard work versus knowing yourself, right? I mean, we all have to grind early regardless. Tom and I were talking about that, paper routes, whatever you had to do to buy tennis shoes, we'd had to do whatever. Now they're getting more aware of themselves and they're trying to get in. I think there's a trend of knowing yourself and getting more in your sweet spot with the ideal role. Us as leaders need to help mentor these guys in the sweet spot so they're just more productive and more optimized.
Oh, hey, look, man, there's nothing like growing up broke to keep you motivated, right? Like some people don't actually care about stuff. I kind of did, right? I wanted some stuff. I was playing basketball. I wanted the same shoes as the other guys, right? The whole team's going to wear Converse, all-stars were it. Chuck Taylor, right? So you go to Midwest Athletic and get the seconds, right? You'd hope you'd hope the C on the Converse wasn't capitalized or something, right? And so
Yeah, or get thirds like I had to. They both looked a little left footage, but
that's right. Pocket knife, carve out the inside a little bit.
Remember the Air Jordans?
Oh yeah, I remember seeing them. I never owned any.
That's all I saw.
Yeah. And it's burned in my brain. Like I wanted to be that guy who had a pair of Air Jordans and I wanted the black pair. And there was one kid in the high school who ended up getting them. And man, I remember how jealous I felt. But so I was starting to put extra time in at McDonald's, cutting extra lawns, whatever I could. And back in the 80s, $110 for a pair of sneakers, that wasn't insignificant because we didn't have money growing up. And I still remember my parents, they were upset to say the least that I would take all that hard-earned cash on a pair of sneakers. But man, the feeling I had walking down the hallway when I had those on, it was
Craig and I were talking about this. For me, it was about freedom. It was less about, I never really liked people telling me what to do. And so I wanted a little bit of my own money. If I wanted some Pop-Tarts at the grocery store, I wanted to be able to buy some Pop-Tarts, right? I wanted a car. I want to have to borrow my parents' car and ask for permission. I was 15 and asked. I bought my first car, right? I was like, neighbor was selling a 73 Duster. Looked like shit, it ran, and paid $300 for that car.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of freedom there. I remember I caught the bus to Old Transpo to Scottsdale Mall, bought my first pair of Levi's that were, pants not from Kmart. Right, I didn't want any Kmart clothes anymore.
Yeah, in the red tag.
Yeah,
you were legit with that red Levi's tag, right?
I wanted those, and then I saved up my money, caught the transpo, sat next to a crazy guy talking to himself, and I said, "I'm going."
I felt like my parents were fairly responsible, but 11, 12 years old, like I knew how to get on a bus. The bus came 2 doors down from my house. I knew how to catch a transfer downtown.
Let's stay on that thread because, you hear the term helicopter parenting. Are we being unfair or is society truly that different? Because, yeah, remember, from as soon as the sun came up, I was outside roaming the neighborhood with my friends. I'd come back for lunch and all right, I'll see you at dinner. And then after dinner, I'm out until the sun went down. And I feel like today that would be 12 misdemeanors, 2 felonies, and a 30-day prison sentence. Like,
Tony, we did a place. So Isaac Walton League is, I don't know if they have them in your area, but they're around. There's an Isaac Walton. And so we lived, let's call it 7 or 8 miles from Isaac Walton. And my friends and I, we're like 10, plan this thing, tell our parents, like we packed our lunch, you filled your canteens, you got a little backpack, we got on our bikes, and we rode to Isaac Walton. And we were gone till dinner.
and you didn't have a phone.
Right.
They couldn't text you every 10 seconds.
Right.
Are you okay?
Yeah, we rode our bikes, our 20-inch bikes, to Potato Creek, Tom.
Holy crap.
Because we wanted to go to the beach and see, we were young. I mean, crap, we were 12, 13, 3 of us right down a crazy.
How far was that, Craig? That's a long way.
That's a long, Washington High School to Potato Creek. Man,
20 miles?
Yeah, at least 20 miles one way.
Wait a minute, you would get in that green and brown water with brain-eating amoeba?
Yeah.
Craig, what were you doing?
Yeah. We were watching the people at the beach, Tony.
But honestly, I was at a YMCA meeting recently, and we were talking about the idea that all the kids get a trophy. And the concept that, like, look, this is in life, everybody doesn't get a trophy. When you go to get a job, there's going to be a bunch of candidates. Everybody ain't getting a trophy. One person's getting a job. And now that doesn't mean that everybody doesn't play or everybody doesn't get an opportunity to develop their skills, that we don't learn, carrying honesty, respect, responsibility through play in the game. But if we're keeping score, then the fact is somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. And if you lost, what does giving everybody a trophy really teach people?
True story. I was at, my oldest son was in 8th grade, and he did a science project. Anyway, he got picked for the state science fair. Judges are walking the floor. I mean, this is hour and a half long process. And now it's time to judge, and we're all sitting in the stands, and they start going through 3rd place, 2nd place, 1st place. And then they did it again. And I'm like, well, we just did 3rd place, 2nd place, 1st place. No. Turns out of we'll say 100 participants, so you had 99 3rd place, 2nd place, 1st places. Everybody got a ribbon.
So now some of these budding scientists, right? Because that's what we're hoping to instill in these science fairs, right? We want to light some young person's fire, get them excited about science so they go out and figure out truly renewable energy, right? Or whatever it is they do. Well, when you go to try to get your fellowship at UC Berkeley in physics, one person's going to get that fellowship. The other 100 are not going to get it. If you're not more resilient, if you can't get knocked on your butt, or somebody put their arm around you and say, nice effort, Tony, but you came up a little short. And here's what you might want to think about doing next time to do better.
My youngest son was dating this woman, and she's 18 and talking about she's on her 5th job at 18. And I'm like, well, why? What's going on? Oh, this last one, my manager just didn't respect me enough. And I'm thinking,
get the out of here.
Holy shit. So is this a societal problem? Do we blame the parents? Like, how did we get to everybody gets a ribbon and, well, so-and-so doesn't respect me enough at that age?
But that's a good segue, into our topic, right? Like, when you think, so I was in an HR training, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago. It was, and these were some top flight recruiters talking about the new age of the workforce. I'm the end of the baby boomers. When people say, oh, the baby boomers caused all this, I'm like, yeah, they did, except it was the early ones, right? Those some bitches from the late 40s and the 50s, they messed it all up. But, you know, the fact is, these kids, and frankly, the young people now, if you're 20 now, it's really their parents who watched their parents basically that companies broke the deal. And I'm not going to get all into, you know, investment bankers, but I'm going to tell you that as companies started to close, right? Pick on Studebaker for a minute. You know, oh, sorry, we're going bankrupt. And, you know, about the pension plan, yeah, we're sorry about that too. And so these people worked 40 years. They paid in whatever they paid in. The deal was I show up, do a good job, and I got a job when I show up tomorrow. And these companies start closing, and these kids watch their parents lose their jobs and really struggle. And they're like, look, companies aren't loyal to us, so why should we be loyal to them? And so they said that an average college graduate, by the time they're 28, has had 6 different jobs since they graduated.
Let me throw another point of view in also in mentorship with younger gen. Now, not all, because I know it feels like we're piling on, and we'll smooth this out. I promise you. But the expectation, promotion. You know, in 5 years you'll be a VP. Like, I don't know where that mindset comes from. Exiting a company because they're not at this particular level because it was their personal goal to be at this level in a matter of years, instead of getting that experience, going through the trenches, experiencing failures along the way, back to that resiliency, build up comment. What happened to that loyalty? Maybe it stems back to what you're saying.
What isn't it that there was always like an external focus? Like even when I was going through my stuff, it was 3 years up or out, my mindset. Getting a promotion because it was a title, it was all externally focused versus who am I and where am I going to get fulfillment? And how am I going to contribute? And my life isn't work. It's, you know, that was the thing. Because I mean, you work a lot of hours.
These people view themselves as independent contractors. Trade my time and talent for whatever looks interesting for now, but work is not my life. And if I have a better opportunity, I'm going to go play someplace else.
Yeah, it used to be all work, money focused, but now it's my life focused, and work is part of that. You know, I mean, there was a heavy emphasis. I got to make money. I got to do this because that's life. And it's like, I mean, that shift has definitely happened.
I think COVID woke up a lot of folks to that as well, because they got a sense of the life side of the equation, not just all work all the time. And you mentioned investment banking, and I go back to like lean as well. The expectation to do more with less. It's all about shareholder value.
Craig, just back to your whole person. I just read a recent study, and they were talking about how COVID, right, really opened people's eyes, because in many cases, why don't you change jobs? I don't want to move. It's inconvenient. I don't know the other places. But at COVID, when everybody starts working remote, like, well, I clearly don't have to move. I can work not always in the office. Like lights went on for people, things that didn't appear to be options before are now options. And so, you know, I could work from anywhere. I could take my skills and sell them to some other company for more money. And these recruiters, right? Recruiters are everywhere. Social media, and, you know, it used to be a little bit tricky. You had to get a tip on a good job. Now, if you're looking for a job, just go to LinkedIn, raise your hand. If you've got any skills at all, you're going to find yourself in some conversations.
You know, we all grew up with nothing, basically, right? I mean, inner city, poor, nothing. You know, the challenge is we always wanted to give our kids more than what we had, but we forgot to give them what made us us, too. which is a little bit of hard work, and mowing 2 acres, 3 acres, doing the hard stuff that made us and survive, kind of was lost a little bit by helping them not have to have the struggles we had.
Well, the other thing they told me, back to this seminar, but that one of the speakers, she said, "Now I'm going to speak to the 50-year-old white guys for a minute." Right? So pay attention. And but she's like, "Look, green hair, a snake tattoo up your neck, get over it. Piercings, they're like, get over it. Those things say zero about this person's skills, interpersonal ability to play on a team."
I draw the line on wearing the cat ears, and I'm going to draw the line on that.
But guilty as charged, right? If you showed up for an interview and you had a tat like wrapping around your ear, back down, giving you a kiss, I would shut down.
That's all you would see.
But think back to when we were growing up, the ducktail, the untied shoes with the tongue sticking out, the ripped jeans. I mean, those were our expressions that didn't mean that we didn't have our head about us, right?
At an interview?
Well, yeah, I hear you.
I mean, they were pretty clear anytime I had anything halfway important going on. Like, you better get a haircut, pull your pants up, tuck your shirt in.
Yeah,
that was the direction I got.
When I was going to college, I had the big long mullet, sort of like Tom has. With dyed purple hair on the side, because my sister was in a hair business, and I went, and they said, "You're never going to get a job." And guess what? On the last day, I got it all cut off and got normal, put a suit on, and because that was the way you had to do it back then, right?
There's a guy that I worked for all throughout later years in high school and early college. He did Santa secret shops. When you would go to shop at their school for mom and dad, chances were this was from his company. My interview, and I'm gonna blame myself, but my parents did drop me off, but I'm taking personal responsibility. This interview, I was in Umbro soccer shorts and a Hobie t-shirt. And we're sitting there in the interview, and I could tell he was visibly irritated. And then the light bulb went off. Shame on me. And I was 15. But it was a good conversation. He's giving me a tour, and he ultimately hires me. But he told me after the fact, he goes, "What the hell were you thinking, showing up looking the way you did?" I'm like, I said, my bad, and we chuckle about it. But my first day, he's out there showing me the lay of the land. And I was hunched over this cart, and he goes, "Is there something wrong with your back?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Well, then stand up, show a little interest in this." Like, he was that kind of guy, and we became great friends in life, but just those little perception lessons, I've never forgotten them.
So you weren't going to get a trophy? Is that what he was telling you? No trophy?
No, there was no ribbon there, man. No. Yeah. But he was so fair, though. I mean, because I could take the criticism, I understood, I could reflect on it, and we got the job done. And like I said, he tried to hire me after college. I mean, just career took me a different way, but yeah, I remember those things.
I got paddled in 7th grade, but the paddle with the holes in it, man. Just
right.
What?
And that didn't teach you to hit. That taught you to sit down. I think there's an element there, right? I remember in 8th grade, I was throwing shit in the classroom and sticking pencils in the ceiling, and the teacher, who was the football coach at the time, he tells me, "Knock it off," and and I'm like chuckling, and the kid that we were messing around kept it up. All of a sudden, he throws his ruler down, and he tells us both to get out in the hallway. And, then we're badass, right? Like, we back. And we get outside, he grabs me by the back of my neck, grabs Jamie Davis back of his neck, and he slams us together. I had an egg on my head the entire day. And once he slammed us together, we were in full attention. And he said, "Do you want to take me on?" Like, this guy was rageful. He'd still be in prison today. Now, that might be an extreme example, but you better believe I was the model student from that point on, you know.
Right.
But you can't do that today. I mean, there's people quitting in Catholic schools, priests and nuns that were teaching, they're getting out of it because you can't discipline a kid anymore. You can't. It's considered abuse, or you're emotionally killing them.
There has to be a lever that you can pull to try to reach somebody. And when they're no longer kids, how do you reach somebody? And I think that's the art, the skills that we all have to develop as leaders and managers. In how do you reach people, without being authoritarian manager, right? Because that isn't going to play anymore in most cases.
All right. So as leaders, times are different, and it's not just necessarily tied to the age of the candidate, but the focus of today is managing younger talent. So what are some tips and guidelines and things that we should be aware of in helping to train them up and get the most out of them?
People have always been told you should do this, you should do that, versus getting to know who they are. Self-awareness is the best gift you can give anyone. Then self-regulation, then self-awareness within teams. Because when you get into knowing yourself, knowing your strengths, not trying to fix your weaknesses, but understand your weaknesses and cover them. And then when you get into a team environment, making sure your weaknesses are covered.
We used to say as leaders, well, here's the job, here's the role, do it or don't do it, get on the bus or get out. Now it's about, taking the time to understand the whole person that you're trying to bring on the team. Take the time to do the working genius or the 16 personalities. Look at how that person is motivated and what is interesting and what does fill them up. And how does that align with the role so that you can help guide them for how they get fulfilled and they serve whatever purpose they need to serve on your team.
And how you manage them week to week has changed also. It used to be, where are you at on this project? Very tactical business items, where I just listened to a different podcast, and it was every month, every 6 weeks, don't have a personal, how are you? Where's your stress level? It sounds Mickey Mouse, but there might be something going on in their home that is affecting work that you could potentially help. Not that you went across the line from an HR perspective, but if they have something serious going on that you can help, you're going to start building that trust factor and care factor.
I don't think it's Mickey Mouse at all. In fact, I'd put the brightest possible spotlight on it, because back to that point of emphasis, because there is that ribbon busting reality that I think has to be injected here in some fashion, because the real world can be a greater shock to the system. You're used to entitlement and ribbons, and I do think there's increased sensitivity to what, an off-color joke, whether it's appropriate or not, but just you got to be more in tune to that. And I think having that personal time one-on-one with the employee to understand their life and what's maybe not working, or just having the general conversation about a particular person in the workplace or department that is a tougher group or tougher set of personalities, to help manage that for them.
As you think about how you bring these folks on and make those connections, right? I'm not sort of a one pure way, but if you do any amount of study on personal development, self-awareness, team building, the example I'm thinking of is Covey and in the investments in the emotional bank account, right? The only way we're going to make a genuine connection with a team, which is really the only way you're going to end up with people who stick with your organization, is if we make some investments in that emotional bank account. So when I call, as Craig said, every couple weeks or whatever. Hey, Tony, how are you? And Tony starts to give me a rundown on his projects. I'm like, no, I mean, how are you? Right? How are things going outside of work? How's your stress level? All the things that Craig said. When we do those things, we make a deposit in that emotional bank account, right? So that when they're having a bad day, and they call it work for a reason, we're going to have bad days. It's not all a party. But when we have a bad day and the recruiter calls, my first instinct is that I'm not out of here, right? That there's been a relationship built, that they understand that we're making an effort as managers and leaders to support them. And so at the first sign of adversity, back to that resilience we were talking about, it isn't cut and run.
And being genuine about it, like you said, because you could sniff out those that are, so, how are you doing? Oh, okay. And then 10 seconds later, you're asking about the project that they've been working on, like having a real conversation.
Just tips that people gave me, right? I believe in an open door, right? Unless I need to have my door closed for some reason, I wanted to have an open door. Well, when Tony pops in, I either need to turn away from my laptop or close my laptop. Like, I can't just glance up and keep doing my email and say, yeah, Tony, what's up? I need to acknowledge that conversation and then either have it or set a follow-up so that we can have it. And then that way those people feel heard. They feel validated.
You're on something there with the whole belief that you can multitask now, especially with the younger generation on the phones all the time. They're texting, whatever. You're trying to have a conversation with them. You can't. Your mind is a single process, but you're not going to get the full being present, being where your feet are, and totally looking at somebody in the eyes and engaging. That's a talent and art, something that's kind of been lost with all the stuff moving as fast as it is.
And for me, it's
the TikTok attention span. Yeah.
Well, and for me, it's a discipline, right? We knew these things. It's not polite to, what did they teach us? Well, we'll go back to when we're little kids. When somebody says hello, what do? Look them in the eye, shake their hand. Not barely glance up from my email, keep talking, maybe get a text while I'm doing whatever. No. Turn your phone over, shut your computer. Those are disciplines for me.
And there's a balance there too, right? You can't have someone jumping in your office every 10 seconds. But that's coaching, that's mentoring.
If you set the tone of, we're going to have weekly meetings, we're going to have a weekly rhythm. If there's an emergency, yeah, open door. But if it can wait to our Monday meeting at 10:30, put it on the list and we'll make sure we could talk. So you're really helping them with optimizing your schedule and theirs.
And I like what you said, like Monday at 10 a.m. we're having that meeting. Sometimes things come up and you have to shift the schedule, but don't make that a habit, because all you're sending the signal is that, well, you're not that important and I'm going to keep kicking this down the road. Having that consistency and attention and that time. I got to be the heartless again on
But you're good at
it. Why? What's with pips? Toward the end of my last gig, it went from, hey, someone's just not cutting it. They're just not performing up to the level. But it became all CYA with HR. Well, did you put them on a performance improvement plan? Is there documented history of they or not? Have you been able to get with them? Like, we might get sued. Fuck it. If this person's not performing up to the level of the job, I got to piss away 6 months? Or again, am I just being the jerk? Like, it's like, well, did you put your CFO on a PIP? No, as I recall, he came in one day and you walked him out the door. So why are the folks below have to do this formality performance improvement just in case they might file a lawsuit in a state where it's employment at will, by the way? All right, I'll stop rambling.
That's all I have to say about that.
So I have one opinion on that. Could be wrong, but I don't think the managers were leaders. And that kind of covers the company's butt. Because if they're good leaders, especially at a manager level or whatever, they're going to be giving them immediate feedback, daily, weekly, whatever, versus this 90-day or wait for a year to tell me I suck, right? It's give them immediate feedback and having those rhythm meetings. You missed here, doing retrospectives weekly. You missed here. What are you going to do different? They're going to get that feedback right away versus you've been failing for 90 days.
The PIP, and at first I kind of had your opinion, Tony, and then I'm like, you know what? This is just a form name or a process name around discipline. Again, I need to have discipline, right? There's times when I haven't been the leader that I really should be, right? I went and complained to Craig about Tony instead of just sitting down with Tony and saying, hey, you know what, Tony, we really kind of missed the mark on this one. And let's talk about how I could have helped clarify my expectations better and how you can deliver better. And frankly, human beings want that feedback. And so if we take the emotion out of the conversation, right, we're criticizing the performance, not the performer.
And I bring up the PIP, and I love both your answers because it's really reflecting on you as a leader and having that immediate feedback loop. You know, if I was screwing up in January and I have to wait till December to understand, I mean, that's an extreme example, but that's poor leadership. But I've watched colleagues present PIPs to employees, and all that does is trigger, not all, but it does seem to be a generational divide on how that PIP is received. That usually triggers a job search for the next stage, you know?
Yep.
So there is the goal should be to not have to be at that formal PIP process. The oversensitivity that seems to be more pervasive. You know, they careful, you're going to offend so-and-so. Do we accept it? Is it our duty as leaders to try and, I'll say, thicken the skin a little bit? I don't want to get HR in the mindset here. Just as a leader, your team, what are your thoughts on that?
The beatings will continue until morale improves.
Yeah, the people that I work with and I'm coaching up, I ask permission. Like, are you okay if I give you some constructive feedback and to coach you up? And if they say yes, then if anybody says no, then you know you got a whole nother issue, right? I mean, but you asking that permission, and then it's like, okay, let's have some conversations. You keep cutting me off in the middle of my sentences. That's not a good trait. But it's constructive, and they gave me permission.
All right, and the other one is when you see a internal candidate and you see 6 jobs over the last 3 years, is that a red flag, a yellow flag, or is that just this is the world we live in now?
It's a yellow flag for me, and I think I have to stop sometimes, and just say, do they know what they're looking for? Do they know what they really want? Are they just job hopping? And you got to get that on the table right away.
Craig, it actually used to be at least orange flag for me, but I work on putting it in the same category as the snake tattoo, right? Like, what I'm going to have an opportunity at some point, if we move forward in the interview, to speak with some of these folks on your extensive resume. And if I talk to your previous employers and they say, and sometimes they're limited what they can say, but, would you rehire is usually a question they can't answer. And if that answer is yes, then that means that person contributed, they did a good job while they were there, and they moved on for whatever reason.
And I really appreciate your offer. It would just break my heart for how much I put into it, and for those reasons, I'm out.
Tom, Craig, really good conversation. A lot goes on there. And I know we went on some tangents. The simple fact of the matter is we grew up differently. Our parents grew up differently. Our grandparents grew up differently. We are in the people business. We just happen to do IT. Right. Thanks again. Till next time.
Take care.
Yeah. You ever hear the claw where you pinch them right here on the trap? You ever hear that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Been a victim of it.
Dr. Dobson, Dare to Discipline. I read that book, and after all I had to do is go like this to my kids, and they knew. They said, I don't have to spank you in public. I'll just give you a little instant pain. It short circuits the pain from hitting to their brain. It's right here. Okay, not doing that anymore. They know the claw.
I don't know.
I think what I hear is if you work with VCIO Global, we'll get you to make $1 million a year. That's what I'm hearing.
Not from me. We will help you improve your performance. How about that?
Managing people or being the person being that you're being, you want to get off on the right foot. You want to set the right tone. Again, hold on. And this is a kid's show. God damn it, I keep saying it. A couple things I'm going to edit in, but I just realized.
Yeah, we got probably 11 minutes of good material here.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm getting text. Where are you? I'm like,
oh, okay.
Oops,
All right. Hey, have a great rest of your day.
Oh, hey.